Hello, this is Eric. I'm just gonna talk over some of the design decisions that went behind a lot of the stuff inside of this Bailey's Route demo game that I made, and just the different things I learned from doing them. Maybe some takeaway points, maybe just to get an idea of maybe like some of the processes I went through, and just a little bit of history of stuff you may not know. Just because I think it would be fun and potentially a good learning experience for somebody. So we'll go and just start. Let's just start with talking about the music in this game. The music in this game is dynamic in the sense that most of the songs, not the boss songs, because there's you're only fighting the boss. But all the songs in this game, I think there are 3 overworld songs. They each have 2 versions that are the exact same length. And they're both playing at the same time, but one of them is muted and the other one is not muted. So what happens is once you get into combat, it'll switch between the 2. Like fade one in and one fades out. And this I could only have done with my friend named Caleb Kite. He did an excellent job with the soundtrack in this game. I helped him, gave him some ideas of the kind of stuff I wanted, gave him some instruments I wanted him to use maybe, showed him a few songs that kind of portrayed the kind of vibe I was looking for with some of these. And he knocked it out of the park. He did such a good job. Kudos to him. Super grateful. But yeah, that aside, tutorials. How the game used to work is that it initially sent you into this tutorial, just the first time per save file that you loaded in. Once you saved, you wouldn't come back here, obviously, but you would show up in this field with like a bunch of grass and fence all around you. And how it worked was there was like a couple dummies to test stuff on, gave you a bunch of items for you to test out, get a vibe for how the game felt and played, but it also just bombarded you with tons of text and you had to just mash through. And if you ever at any point said, yeah, I'm actually not wanting to read this again, and it's one of those annoying do you want me to repeat that, yes, no situations, and it was not very good. People would mash through it, get frustrated when they have to go through dialogue again. It was just not good. So I opted to replace it for tutorials that would pop up as you did new things. And I tried to keep it concise, just keep it to one dialogue box. I had to cut out quite a bit of nuance from it that I could have added in little journals or something in the menu, but not many people read those. So I kind of just, there are some aspects people might have to figure out themselves. And when they figure it out themselves, they'll be like, oh, dang, okay, that's pretty cool. So, I've thought of a few ways of doing it. Maybe adding, little manuals you can find on the floor that give you hidden mechanics behind some of the attacks. Maybe explain something a little better. For people who want to read these things and want to learn how it works. I didn't do that, but that was just one of the things I was playing around with. But long story short, keep your tutorials brief. Because people don't want to sit there and read them all day. Additionally, because this game works off of a save system, it used to kind of be like a weird hybrid between a save system and a soul system, where you would, if you died, the amount of money you had, you'd keep. You'd keep everything, but the enemies that you killed that don't respawn wouldn't respawn. And any potions you used would also not be replenished, because you just restore it. It's basically like a warp back to the first spot. You didn't drop anything on death or anything, but you'd run out of resources pretty quickly. So it made resources feel pretty terrible in terms money was a lot easier to come by just because enemies drop more. There are a lot stuff like that, but I ended up toning back how much money the enemies dropped and going to a full-on save system. Which, if you don't save for a while and you die, that feels pretty terrible. But it feels worse? Fighting a boss, dying to it 3 times, and then running out of money, running out of potions, and now you just have to fight it straight up. Which is, an issue that is my biggest gripe with things like Bloodborne. Is that you have finite amounts of healing, you have finite amounts of, buffs and stuff, and if a boss is beating your butt because you just can't get it, it gets harder, because now you've run out of heals, now you've run out of fire bombs. or whatever you need. In this case, speed and attack potions, which the boss is designed around you using those. So you'll have a harder time if you don't use them. And getting the buffs from completing quests, all that stuff. The game scales. It doesn't scale, but it ramps up in proportion to the buffs that you get. You'll always feel like a little stronger than you did, but if you don't level up, it will feel worse as you get further on. Which I think is important to do, because you need the player to feel like they're making progress. Things are becoming easier, they're getting stronger, because they keep doing this. You want them to feel rewarded for their work. And if you take that away and just say, okay, now the game is just as hard, it's like scales up to exactly where you are, you get nothing off of it, that feels terrible. It's like, okay, well, now I'm just fighting to stay on level with everything. You need to give them a little bit of, oh, I'm kind of strong now, and then introduce something new that like they need to try to beat. Just keep giving them another carrot to reach, as opposed to making them always feel like the carrot is just out of reach. And an aspect of that is, just how you scale enemies throughout the game, how you scale encounters, what you design the boss around being able to do, stuff like that. But yeah, I added a save point to this specific room because people would overlook the one in the main room over to the right, die, and then get sent back to the main menu, have to load through everything, go through the tutorial. It was a big hassle. So I added one to this room to make them familiar with it, told them how to interact with stuff, gave them a chest so that they know that they exist, gave them a couple healing potions, make them feel like they're starting off strong, and then they can move on. This gives you, this tells you how to interact if you didn't know before, which, you could have put that in the previous one. Yes, I could have, but people usually figure that out on their own, but this is just in case. And, say they just figured out how to do it, they're going to go back 5 feet, grab it, and then come back over here. Not a huge deal, but at least you're not bombarding them with 2 tutorials back to back, and they're just going to skip over it. So that's like a little aspect that you have to be mindful of when designing the very first region in any video game. Funny story, this was one of the very first assets I made, was this little sign here. It's actually, initial scaling is way smaller, and it's actually a slightly different width, which is why it kind of shrinks and grows a little as you walk sideways, because it's rounding errors on the scaling. So I could fix that by making a new thing, but it's not that big of a deal. You can actually interact with these. Doesn't tell you much, but what happens is people I've seen people go all 3 directions from here. Most people just go straight this way. Say, oh, there's a guy to talk to him. Oh, okay, rat infestation, yeah, all right, 5 of them, sure. And then they just kind of mash through it. Yeah, okay. Where do I go? Oh, okay. Go back to behind the... Okay, that makes sense. No, that's pretty... I've seen that exact situation happen 5 times. So what happened, what I used to do is, I asked, you tell them, okay, go over here, do it. People who are reading, know to actually read through all the dialogue. What they're going to do is read this, be like, oh, go kill a bunch of rats. I can find those, and they'll reason their way through it. But the people who tend to mash through these things just to get into the action of the game will do that, not know what's going on, and be like, wait, where do I go? Oh, okay, I just talk to him again, and he tells them where to go. Whatever. I think this chest is a really funny prank. It's one of the first chests you find, poof, empty. I'm also proud of that little smoke animation. I think it looks nice. We got another save point here. He's got the exclamation point on his head. And so what people either do is depending on how much they read, they'll either just go straight and up or straight into the side. It seems like there's a ton of directions to go right off the bat, which is a nice thing to have. It's a little daunting, yes, for new players, but what it does is it makes people feel like they have things to backtrack to. Even though there's only one direction you can actually go, it's technically only up here, because, the only place to go is to, you can go to that little room up and to the left, do his quest, sure. You can go to that room to the right and do a little bit, sure. But progression is tied specifically to going in one of the directions. And then, people find their way over here. And this tells you how to use a special attack. And it very important, it says, but we left vulnerable. How I design special attacks in this game is to have a lot of knockback. And there's a slight bug right now with facing one direction while being exhausted. Just ignore that for now. It doesn't matter that much. It only applies to if you're standing still. Funny story. This is specifically tied to the first time you get in combat. Usually it's not here, but it can be. But an aspect about the special attack that's important to note is it not only has more end lag than your actual dodges. You'll notice, like, look how long it takes for it to recharge, and then look how long this takes to recharge. It's much faster. You can do this a lot faster. No attack on it, tons of iframes. This is much shorter animation, has quite a bit of cooldown, but an unspoken mechanic this game has is while you're in end lag, your attack speed is shorter. And you can actually hold the button down to attack. And you see how fast it is here? Let's say you do a dodge. You see how much slower that is? And yeah, so it being slower is a pretty big deal because one of your main ways to give yourself space when fighting enemies is to hit an enemy, back off, hit an enemy, back off. And some of them move fast enough that you have to actually, like, you know, time it. Like, when there's enough of them, you gotta be, you know, backing up a little bit, swinging, backing a little, swinging. It's a position-based game. But when you're exhausted from using this thing, you're probably just gonna get hit if you didn't kill the thing. So the game is, you know, balanced around these ideas of the risk reward of using your different tools and stuff. The dodge used to have substantially less end lag, like almost half of what it is now. I had to, and actually the dodge used to have the exact same end lag as the special attack, but then people wouldn't use the dodge. There's no reason to use the dodge, so I had to make there to be distinct reasons to use one over the other. And I decided to make the attack version faster, it goes farther, but there's more end lag, and if there's more end lag, it's harder to keep enemies off of you. So the risk reward is there. There's trades, trade-offs to using either. It's a good opener, but, like, you know, you see, like, right here, I'm put in a tricky position. You know, this guy sells attack potions. Those are really important to get. He sells them at a discount too, so that's nice. If you get 3 of them, he sells them at discount. Yes. Let's talk about the rats real quick. The rats have a storied history, dude. Oh my god, these rats have so much going on with them. Funny story. If you look at this guy, he'll always face right after he moves. I don't know why he does that. I've tried to fix the bug. I could probably fix it now that I'm a little bit more experienced, but, like, for some reason, after they're done doing the little spin, like they're looking around, they stop for a second, they'll just face right randomly. I'm not sure why, but I think it's funny. But you can take these guys with you. I think that's fun. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple things here. So something you can do in this game is walk while carrying an item, right? It's kind of cool. I tell them how to do it later. You can actually throw them too, and that does damage when they hit the floor. It'll insta-kill a rat, whatever. And since it's aggroed on you, it'll keep doing the sound effect for the music, right? The music will be correct. Will be in aggro because he's trying to bite you right now. Why does it do that sometimes? It's so strange. I just think that's kind of funny. But here's the thing though. These guys have collision with these kinds of things, right? So what I had to do to make it to where you couldn't drop, like, a key item you needed, like inside of the house or inside of something that has collision, what I have to do is make it to where if you finessed it to where you can, you can, like, walk down or something, walk sideways, now it's inside the house. Make it to where you cannot drop, you cannot throw the item as long as it's inside of something you normally wouldn't be able to pass through, and it'll always push you back in the direction that you need to go in order to not be stuck anymore. And you can't walk forward either, so, like, say you do this, it'll always just keep trying to push you back. It won't let you throw it. I had to specifically code that in there because, unlike most games with picking up items, you don't just, like, lift it over your head, you don't have it in your hands. It's in a fishing rod in front of your character. So I had to specifically apply some stuff to it to make it work as I wanted to. So that people couldn't accidentally soft-lock themselves. There is nothing in the game currently that requires that you do this. That you have an item that you need to bring between rooms. Because you can bring creatures and items between rooms. You see, he's still with us, even to this day. You have a little bit of iframe spawn entering and exiting a room, by the way. Stop doing that so that we don't have to deal with seeing the bug. Yeah, so what was I saying? Right. So there's nothing in the game currently, but there was planned to be. Hasn't happened yet, probably won't happen, but it might. Who knows? Maybe I'll come back to work on this game. Now these rats were fun. In the sense that they were not fun at all on release of the very first version of this game. Because I was still figuring out how coding worked and how to deal with the different states. These rats, when they did their attack state, they had full iframes because I wasn't properly setting their attack hitbox. Like, how it works is, like, you know, they have the attack is like a little box that is its own sprite. So what it does is it draws that sprite invisibly for a frame, or it just draws that sprite. Kind of. It sets your sprite index to that thing, to the hitbox, calculates who's inside of it, adds it to a list. If you've been hit, you get hit, and then it swaps back to wherever it was supposed to be. So the person doesn't see anything because it never actually renders that, but you know, there's a hitbox, right? And what happened is I wasn't properly setting their stuff back to be able to be hit until after the animation was over. So the rats initially had full iframes on their attack, and their attack has a little jump back and then forward, and it has a good chunk of range. So they would be like invincible for like 60% of the time they existed. You'd be attacking, they'd just be hitting you, and they used to move substantially faster than you do, because I wanted it to be an enemy you couldn't ignore, you had to deal with. So people would just be getting chased down by rats, just nibbling at them, like, oh geez, I can't hit them, why? And it was really frustrating to deal with. And eventually I figured out some of the bugs. I toned down their speed 3 times to get them to the point where they're at now, where it's just like, you know, if you want to get away from them, you certainly can. You see that little animation when they jump back? That used to have full iframes on it. And now there's just a hitbox in front of them. As well, so that they can actually hit you, because you know they used to move faster, so their design, what the attack was designed around that. Yeah, these rats are actually kind of cute. I like them. I think Mason made these. I don't remember. Yeah, he made them and I cleaned it up, just like specifically, or Frostalus, if you're familiar with him. I think he made the idle animation for the rat, and then I made I forget. I know I cleaned up his animations by making them more consistent with the art style, but I do think he made the rat entirely, like all the animations associated with it, including where it kind of like bubbles away. I kind of like that. I think that's funny. Yeah, look at when they die, they kind of go. Bleh. I think that's funny. I like it. So yeah, the rats used to be a huge issue. People hated them. And I wanted people to respect them and be like, oh, I got a rat on me, I have to deal with this enemy instead of running past enemies. Because I didn't want people to just run past enemies. And then I realized that, like, people being able to get away from encounters they don't want to do just yet is kind of important. You know, because I don't want people to feel like they're just not allowed to have a good time. So, you know, I tweaked it. They didn't need to be a huge issue, so I just made them slower 3 times, adjusted the bugs related with their hitboxes, toned down the end hitbox size on how far they go, and it gave them a little bit more extra range before they actually do the jump, just so that it's possible to hit the player, because I made them slow enough to where you could literally just outwalk them attacking you. I want to make sure it is actually possible for them to hit you. So that's why I designed them in the way that I did. And that's how they are on live now. And I see people complain about it sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, imagine how bad it used to be. Very funny stuff. Yeah, let's just go this way. Ah, look. The dodge button. There's your iframes from exiting. Now, I just got reminded of, actually, another funny thing. The camera on this used to be a lot closer to the player. Because you know, I didn't want the player to be small so you felt you couldn't, like, see your character well or whatever. And then one of my friends, who is a streamer, mentioned that, hey, the camera feels very restricting. I can't see enemies quite before they get on screen, right? And so in just the span of a couple minutes, like, I adjusted it to zoom out the camera a bit more. However, this had the unintended side effect that I had to actually resize every single room that was Oh wait, no, that's when I changed it. Yeah, okay. So I messed with the resolution at some point, and including making it further out. When I made it further out, there's a lot of rooms that were only the size of the camera, like, you know, that initial room and the room after, like the hut and the room after, and every room that's inside of a building was not designed to be viewed from that much further away. So I actually had to make those rooms bigger, and then like readjust where all the collision zones and stuff were on it too, because it's tied to a map as opposed to like objects. So that was kind of funny. That I had to do all of that. Did I clear that out? I forget. Yeah, let's go check. Oh, great. Look, now I can run past enemies, but you know what? Not that big of a deal. Fun fact, those garlics, I'm actually quite proud of them. That is how garlic looks in real life. The garlic plants. Oh yes, I did do this. I should go talk to Greg real quick. A lot of people have requested that I remove the bounce feature, and I might. If I continue working on the game, I may remove the bounce feature. The thing is the bounce feature has full iframes on it. And I wanted to make it to where you didn't just, like, you know, I wanted there to be a little bit of precision to your attacks, but sometimes there's stuff you can't do anything about. Like, you'll just dodge into it, you have the end lag of it, and then you still have more end lag. So gets creatures an opportunity to catch up to you, and you'll guarantee get hit in some situations. So I may end up removing that. This guy gives you extra stuff if you he gives you some extra stuff if you kill the spider as well. Pretty much everybody does. Yeah, they're actually initially with this, I'll just go back up here. Believe it or not, these do not properly match up the actual distance. But these, I was planning on adding a extra dialogue if you broke all of his garlic before you went to go talk to him again, for the quest. He's gonna be like, oh, thanks for breaking all the rats, even though you know, kind of just killed all my crops anyway, so it's really cool, man. You know, something like that. Thought it'd be funny. I didn't end up doing it, but if I were to revisit the game, obviously, I think I would. But I just thought that was a funny little thing I could add in there that I missed one. Oh, that reminds me of another thing. So these used to have the same drop chance of like normal like grass and stuff. In terms, like, if you see like weeds and stuff, you can break them, and there's a, like, I don't know, like 1 in 10, 1 in 15 chance that drops some gold. These used to have that exact same chance. However, there's a lot of them, and they used to yeah, they used to drop stuff. So people, whenever they want money, would come here for like 3 to 5 minutes, just break everything, just break it all. And that wasn't great, because people would spend a bunch of time doing that. It kind of messed up the economy of the game, which is a minor issue. But the bigger issue is the fact that they would spend a bunch of time doing that. And, you know, if they died, they'd be like, crap, I gotta go grind for money again, blah, blah, blah. It was just kind of, it was not very fun. It just wasn't a very fun aspect of the game. So I completely removed the chance for these to drop anything. Or, actually, it's not what I did initially. Initially, I made it to where these didn't respawn. But then I kind of decided I like them respawning, you know, because, you know, they look nice. They do just look nice. And, you know, people would still do the thing where they go break everything, get, like, anywhere between, like, 10 and 50 gold just by running over here getting stuff. And I didn't think that was... I didn't really like that aspect of it. Especially because I had to rework the monetary system ever since I switched over to a true save situation instead of, like, the little Dark Souls-esque save I was mentioning earlier. So once I switched over to this, I needed to rework the economy to be, you get the right amount of stuff. You can afford what I think you should be able to have at certain points and bounce the game around. Like, you can always, like, farm rats, but, like, that's not a guaranteed chance they drop anything. I think it's, like, a 2/3 chance they drop, like, up to, like, 2 gold or something, or up to 3 gold. Yeah, I think they drop up to 3. 2 and 3 chance. Spools. Speaking of having to limit the player, these spools here, what they used to be able to do, how they used to work is actually, while I'm on the topic, did you see that enemy I killed a second ago? How the HP bar disappeared, but he was still alive? There was a bug that I just could not figure out, where if I were to Hit an enemy, reduce its HP to 0. But it actually have like a floating point value somehow, and it wouldn't actually die. And the HP bar is based off of, you know, how much, it sets like a frame, it draws a certain amount of it, based on how much you, like, how much HP you have left, right? So it's green bar, empty bar, right? Here's the thing, whenever I did that, it kind of like flicker all over the place. Well, it's not actually. There's a red bar too. So like once you get under a certain amount of health, see how he has a red bar. So what would happen was it would like flicker red and green and just be all over the place. It looked really weird. I couldn't figure out how to fix it, so I just turned it off in that scenario. So it's a rare bug. But that's what I did. Related, the HP bar, which this is actually related to the grapple. I didn't forget about the grapple. HP bar. See how it's just static, 160 right now? Not healing or anything. Look, watch this. Kill something. Ah, I got some HP back after the animation of it dying ended. Very nice, right? So, how this initially worked was you would... Initially, there was no regen whatsoever, right? And I decided that after I watched people play the game, people would get frustrated that they just had to use healing. Sorry, I typed something down. They had to use healing that was finite, that you did not get back on dying. And especially at this time, it was that Dark Souls system where, you know, if you use something, you did not get it back because, you know, you died. And you already used it, and it saved how much HP and money you had. Basically just teleported you back, and all the enemies you killed stayed dead. But so there was, you wouldn't have to refight enemies, but at the same time you couldn't get resources back once you did it. So what would happen is people would never go to those rest points, which did heal. They didn't heal you initially. I chose to let them heal you as like the first way to combat people feeling like they just didn't have enough healing and would die on purpose in order to be back at full health. That's not fun. Because they keep all their stuff. There's no penalty to dying besides you don't get the stuff back that you used. So people would go die on purpose in order to get their HP back. So it's like, instead of that, let's just make the save points fill you to full HP, because, you know, why not? Like, why wouldn't I do that? And eventually, even then, people didn't want to travel all the way back. They wouldn't save. And eventually, I switched over to the new save system. They wouldn't save, lose a ton of progress, and be like, oh my god, dude, I just wanted to go, and now I gotta run all the way back and fight all the things again. And I'm like, well, yeah, you were low on HP, and you're kind of cutting it close there for no reason. You could have just went back and saved. He's like, yeah, but it's all the way over there, and especially in some of the further areas. It really does. It can get a little far, because I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more interconnected rather than give you a save point every 5 steps. So eventually I added slow regen. It's probably like an HP every 2 or 3 seconds, and it worked fine until people started like doing this. Alright, I'm at 150 HP out of 200. I'm just gonna sit here for a while. Oh, I'm down to 20 HP. I'm just gonna sit here for 3 or 4 minutes to get my HP back. Hit Q for the... Oh, I got hit. Gotta sit here and let my regen happen. And it just... People would like, you know, they're so scared of losing time going down and grabbing the thing. Or, you know, like going down and healing. Or they would be scared of losing their progress and, you know, dying and having to reload a save. So what they'd do is they'd just sit here and wait. And it was not fun for them. So I chose to remove the natural healing, and I tied it to killing things. And technically, it's less effective than it is to just sit there and wait, unless you're fighting rats or something. Like the time to heal, I guess. But the thing is enough that, you know, if you kill something without getting hit, you're rewarded with a little bit more HP. You kill a few enemies, you can afford to get hit again. Oh, I'm down to 2 HP, but I killed a goblin, and oh, I killed another one. Oh, I got hit again. Oh, I'm back to 1 HP, and it's like, you know, there's a little balance there, where it's like, you know, it gave them a little bit more margin for error. You make a small mistake, you come back easily. You make a lot of mistakes, you have to be careful, but you can get your HP back without using this limited resource. And that did a lot to make people feel like they were... it was worth continuing forward, instead of going back and healing, which, you know, going back and healing, that's time spent of them walking there and coming back. You want to respect the player's time. So I gave them reasons to continue pressing forward to find more stuff in the game, as opposed to just walking back and forth, because it's not fun, wastes time, makes them feel like they're just like, oh god, it becomes a chore. I didn't want to do that. And on a similar note, this. Oh boy, this is got a lot going on, eh? Funny story. How this works actually is I should go find a goblin to test it on or something. That's fine. I'll just tell you. So how this works is it actually inflicts a large amount of negative knockback. So that's why the enemies will turn around when you hit them with it, but then they'll be dragged towards you, and it has a lot of hit stun on it. So they're just stuck there like for a few seconds while they're being dragged towards you. And I specifically made it to where your character is actionable before theirs is. So you can do that, hit them once, and then that resets their knockback and whatever. So you can pull an enemy closer to you, hit him with a special attack, hit him with a normal attack. It doesn't really matter. Oh, funny story. Special attack can be used sitting still, which does a ton of damage to a single target. Because of how melee attacks work in this game, which I'll get to in a second. But how this used to work is it used to be a 5-second cooldown every time you used it. So what people would do, it did a little bit of damage, and I wanted to keep the fact it did damage as a way to get like a long-range attack real quick if you really, really needed it. Just, you know, get that little extra damage. Like if you're in a dangerous position and you want to draw an enemy closer, do a little damage, hit it with the wombo combo. We give them a reason to use it. More so than just grabbing items and stuff, which I do tell the player about later, but not right off the bat, because I don't want to overload them. I've already given them like 4 tutorial prompts. But they've all been very short, so I chose to opt to tell them that later when it mattered more. And I was finding that people would just sit out of range of enemies, use the tether, back up a little bit, wait for it to de-aggro, and just do it again. And they would do that for 45 seconds to kill a group of enemies. And it's like, are you having fun doing this? Like, is this fun for you? And they'd be like, no, not really. I'm like, why are you doing it? They're like, because it's, you know, I don't have to worry about getting hit or anything. So I kind of realized that players will always look for the easy way out when it comes to, well, not always, and oftentimes will look for the easy way out when it comes to how to deal with challenges in a game. So you have to restrict their ability to do stuff they want to do for their own benefit, so they do the things that are what makes the game enjoyable. This only works if your game is fun. Like, if you want to make them engage with the mechanics, but if the mechanics aren't fun, then it just becomes overly restrictive. You can see this in like Pokemon games where up until the most recent DLC, like you had the flying ability on like your Miraidon or Koraidon or whatever. You'd be able to fly around, but you'd always glide down, and that felt needlessly restrictive because the fun part of the game was the flying around part and the exploration, but instead they put a restriction on that to make it to where there was no real benefit to using it, because by the time you get that ability you can go wherever you want anyways. So it was like all they were doing was restricting you, and that's something you have to avoid, is going so far to restricting the player from doing something for the sake of like balance or something, that it feels like they're no longer engaging with the fun part of the game and it becomes back tedium. So there's two sides to that, and you have to find that nice sweet spot in the middle. At least that's what I have personally noticed. Yeah, so let's go in here. I put a save point in here because you know what people like to do? They just, actually, funny story. Put the save point in here. You know what people did a lot? Ignored the save point. Talked to this guy. Was like, yo, what's going on? Oh, geez, what's going on? Forget about the save point, run outside, and freaking die. It happens so many times, dude. You don't understand. It was actually like 4 out of 5 people that I saw play this game run in here, ignore the save point, talk to the guy, ignore the save point, run outside, have like 50 HP, die in 5 seconds, and it'd be like, no, I've got to do all of that over again. I'm like, brother, there's a save point right there. I can't force people to go to the save point. I can't force people to read. But what I can do is I made sure when this guy talks to you, you get healed to full health. And this was intentional. Because you have a tough combat here, right? You know, people go over here, just get hit a couple times. And I specifically designed this to be a force people to not run into unknown territory situation, and to learn how to use their spacing and timing of attacks to push enemies back. That's specifically why I designed this. So what people do, they initially get scared and be like, oh geez, I gotta, like, yeah, let's load a checkpoint. Let's load a checkpoint here. So what they do is, you know, let's talk to this guy. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, there's so many enemies. Run out here. Oh my god, there's so many. How do I get away? Why can't I kill them all? Dude, I have to try to die and I'm still winning. Like, I don't understand why people struggle so hard with this. But, you know, people just run out, take a bunch of damage, get scared, try to get away, and die. And the whole point of this thing is to teach you, don't just run into the middle of everything. Also, I specifically designed this quest to not save if you've started the conversation, so that if you reload after talking to him, or if you save after talking to him, you won't be forced into doing this combat every time. Give people a little bit of stuff. So what people eventually would almost always end up doing is running behind this house, hitting a couple enemies, getting a few hits in, and then, you know, being like, okay, well now I can handle the next burst of enemies. Now, I'm starting to learn how to use my special attack. I need to get out of here. Oh, I'm starting to use my dodges a little bit more. Starting to use my spacing a little bit more. To learn how to hit people without taking too much damage. You know, stuff like that. And this combat, like, seems really brutal for some people. It seems brutal, at first. But once you start understanding the aspects of the game of what makes the combat loop in this game is like learning like what ways you have to move to avoid attacks, learning when to hit people in order to stun lock them to not be able to, well, you can't stun lock because they can move before you can throw another attack because there's a delay between attacks, right? Attacking is frame 1 though. That's cool. But yeah, so like, you know, there's a little bit of delay between attacks, so you can't just stand there and hit them, which people complained about. It's like, I can't, they get closer to you. I'm like, yeah, it's because you have to move around. You can't just, wow, what fun gameplay this is. It died. You have to move around, and the enemies will come from off screen. You're like, oh geez, well I need to go this way, I need to go this way. And I found that adding these rocks made a really cool dynamic of like people would just kind of like, they can't just run in a circle because they'll get stuck on something and get hit. So what the people would do is they'd run this way, see a few enemies, run back this way, and it created like a more dynamic experience by adding these rocks, by adding enemies in clusters around the map that you couldn't see before they aggroed on you. They have a higher than normal aggro radius, so it forced people to be able to react to the situation quickly, figure out what's going on, not just run into the middle and get killed. And a big part that made this combat a lot more enjoyable was when I added iframes on getting hit. There used to not be, so if a bunch of things hit you, you just get da 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 da. That was bad. Removed that very quickly. That was actually, I fixed that before I even made the first version of this game. I just straight up did that. You talk to this guy, he's like, oh thanks, now I can make an explosive. Here's a reward for your efforts. Nice, save the game. I've had a few people like not talk to him afterwards. It's like, did you like forget there was a quest or something? The quest tracker is fine until there's some weird issues with it properly saving all the data sometimes. But yeah, so you know, people would do that. It's fine, whatever. Yeah. Oh, by the way, how attacks used to work. How attacks work in this game. There was a bug initially that caused the start of this. You see how its HP appeared for a second and then it died? It's because I don't know if it's every frame or every frame, I don't recall. But, you know, depending on how much of your attack hits the enemy, changes how much damage you do. Because it's every frame, it'll apply a little bit more damage. It only applies knockback once. But it will, like, it only hit them, like, with the knockback once, but it does damage to them for like every frame or two that's on them of the attack. So the more direct of a hit you get, the more damage you get. Initially there was just a bug where it would just da-da-da-da hit every single time. And I was like, wait, oh, so I need to, you know, create this list to add everything to it, and then after the attack is done, clear the list. But I decided to, I kind of like the idea of like the longer the attack is on them, the more damage it does. And so I had to tone down the damage of the player, but you know, see how that 248 and this one, Did a little bit more. This one will probably do a little bit less. Yeah. So that's why, you know, if you do an attack where you like barely hit someone with the tail end of it, it does less damage. Hit someone directly, it will do a bit more. Actually, it's pretty consistent that time. But yeah, the damage is not incredibly consistent because it depends on how much you hit them. If you barely nick them with the very tail end of this, you see here, he took 37. He knocked you out of the attack. And by the way, it's the entire hitbox. Like that whole thing. It does appear from the bottom and work its way up, but the bottom does not disappear until the attack is over. So, yeah, take that as you will. That's pretty cool. I think I explained the rats already. Let's just save here. Oh, we've got enough money for an attack potion. This attack potion is actually kind of important. It's not that important. I kind of hope people will buy one initially. And get the stuff unlocks as you find it. I was kind of hoping that people would like find it initially, and then use it in that other combat where things are tough, but it's not that big of a deal if they don't. These guys are just basically, you can't go here till you fight the boss, and this guy's saying, ah, poop my pants. If you, I've got to poop my pants. Right? He's like, ah, crap. I should probably change that. It's not that funny. Whatever. I just know that somebody, well, I forget who I made it for. One of my friends loves that sense of humor. It's not very funny in my opinion, but I added it and he enjoyed it, so I'm happy. Now you get to this area. By the way, these trees look immaculate. Very proud of these trees. This is the first time you encounter new music in the game. You feel like okay, I'm finally moving on to the next area. This is kind of cool. And I give you, I give you a lot of combat where these guys popping down trees. They're like, oh my god, you jerk! Why did you put that guy there? Immediately forget. Oh god, there's another one. And they're like, okay, sure, that's oh my god, there's another one. And then they get to here and they're like, okay, yep, knew that guy was gonna be there. And they start learning, and then they're like, oh, is there no more? And then the last guy comes. It's just really funny. I've seen that like exact thing pan out so many times where there's like, oh, okay, I know it's coming. Hits that guy, nothing here, and then that final guy jump scares them. So freaking funny. I love that. Specifically designed it around like how people do that. But very, very funny situation happened where I wanted to put a couple secrets in the game. So when I came here, I'm like, okay, what people would do without fail. This happened 5 times in a row. I was like, okay, well, this is a good place to reward them being like curious. They'd always go like this. Okay, nothing up here. Okay, nothing up here. Nothing up here. There is now, but they'd be like, oh, nothing up here. Oh, okay, well, that sucks. There's nothing up there. Oh, well. So what I did was initially, it was just right here. It was just a small square right here where you could go up. But I kind of decided that was a little too... There's no real indicator. There's like a little gap in the trees, but there's a gap in the tree here too. And I don't know. There's obviously no tree right here. There was no reason to like put it here specifically. So I did extend it like all the way out to here or something. To add a little secret. And you know what happened the moment I added it in? People did not find the secret for 4 or 5 different people in a row. I was like, what? How did it just so happen that all 5 of the people who check up here played it before I added it, and then I add it, and they don't. They just stopped checking. I was like, dude, what the heck? It wasn't the same people either. It was a funny situation. But, you know, I added a boxing glove because I thought it'd be a funny idea to put a boxing glove on the end of the fishing rod. So now when you use your tether, it changes your thing there. You can put a boxing glove, which triples the damage output of it, by the way. Literally triple the damage output. You can one-shot spiders if you space it properly. Yeah, it's goofy. I love it. I think it's very funny. Just kill a couple of these guys here. Watch this. Yeah, I didn't even space it properly, and it lived. But these spiders only do not respawn, and they drop a lot of money. So I specifically designed these guys to kind of like, you know, be an elite enemy, so to speak. And how you're supposed to avoid them actually is just sidestep them. A lot of people are like, wow, I can't get away because they'll do this. Well, it worked this time. I believe, yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, okay, a spider. Oh, I'm getting hit. Oh god, what do I do? And then, you know, whatever. But every enemy in this game is designed with a specific movement counterplay to not get hit, right? So you can literally just sidestep this guy. It's quite easy actually if you know what you're doing. And every enemy has something like that. With these guys, you're supposed to hit them. If they catch up to you, they're pretty much guaranteed to hit you. You're not really supposed to avoid the attack on these guys. You're just supposed to hit them, back up a little bit, hit them back up a little bit. The rats will also. You're supposed to hit them before they hit you, but you can sidestep them as well. It's a little bit tighter because their windup is shorter and they have a hitbox in front of them. But yeah, everything is supposed to have its way of avoiding getting hit or whatever. And what a lot of people do is fight those spiders, die, and get set back, and like, oh crap, instead of just going into the house first. And you know, in the house you got a save point or whatever, which is nice. But yeah, so these spiders are like, when people first see that, they freak out. They're like, oh my god, there's a ton of spiders, this is bad. And then they kind of realize that actually no, they're not that bad once they figure it out. And another thing I had to do, this is actually quite funny. You see this little over here? You see right here, this, oh, heavy presence ahead. Is there anything you still need to accomplish? Is there? Oh, right, the goblin needs a freaking, yeah, okay, so, two things over there. So, what would happen was, I did not initially have two goblins standing there. Initially, it was just an empty, just a little bit of dirt going off the side. And a surprising amount of people did not recognize the fact that you could just, that was a road leading off screen. They'd just be like, oh, there's just a big clearing. Where do I go from here? And then they'd go back, be like, where the heck am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? They just wouldn't see it. I don't know why, but a lot of people just didn't see where they're supposed to go there. So I ended up putting two goblins here. And I was like, yeah, okay. So that'll force them to be like, oh, there's something over here. You hit them, and then you can go that way. And then it gives you this thing here, like trying to remind people, hey, maybe you perhaps want to save, or maybe you want to go finish a quest or two or something, because there's a boss on the other side. Lots of ways to deal with the boss too. Let's see, do I want to buy 3 of these? Yeah, I've got money. There we go. Let's just save real quick. Yeah, so I initially, I designed it to, I had to put that there to force people to recognize that, yo, you should not just sit there and, you shouldn't go here yet. You should probably finish a quest or something, because almost every single time people would just go in there, see the boss arena, and then go fight the boss instead of even stop. I don't think you can go back yet. No, you can't go back unless you have a thing. I also hit the chest here because I thought it'd be funny. There's only 1 pixel visible right here. It's not, I didn't factor it into the economy that I set up for the player. That is solely there because I thought it'd be fun to hide something like that, and maybe someone finds it and be like, yo guys, there's a chest over here. People are like, yo, what, seriously? And I'll also put a chest up here. People don't usually find this until they come back from this direction. They usually only look up this far. Yeah, so, I put that there to force people to kind of, like, consider, maybe I didn't finish my quest. Maybe I should go save real quick. This guy just sells stuff. Feel free to browse my wares. Yeah, this is another character from the Viva La Dirt League, actually. The music's gonna pause and stuff. By the way, the pause menu actually pauses. And because when I would be testing, this is a good thing to have in general, being able to turn up and down the volume. But I specifically added it because I'd be testing this and be tired of listening to, like, especially the Honeywood music over and over. Oh yeah, well, that strange bug. Okay, okay. And I go to the pause menu and it killed the. That's very funny. Not seen that happen before. Well, that's just another small bug. The freaking, these guys, if you unpause, will not unpause their animation. That's fun. Okay. So, fun story about this boss. So this boss was based off of a cutscene from the Balin's Drought movie. Maybe I'll pull it up real quick, actually. Let's pull. I could show you a lot of the inspiration from the characters. Maybe that's a different video if people watch this. For now, I will just I'll just continue with what I was doing. This is one of the characters that were in the actual thing, and there's a few references in this game to different episodes or to the actual Balin's Route movie that they ended up making. So I went over those secrets. I think I talked about the rats before. Let's talk about this boss. Let's save real quick. I don't recall if I did. I'm pretty sure I did though. So this boss is a mixed bag when it comes to how people deal with it. Some people really hate the rocks that are in the that are just around here, right? You know what? Actually, there is a combat mode for this. So a lot of people think this boss is fine. Well, it's weird. Some people have a huge problem with this boss because of the phase transition enemies. Which, you know, honestly, not that big of a deal. As long as you're utilizing your abilities properly, shouldn't be too big of a deal. As long as you got your buffs, he's not too hard to avoid getting hit. The funny story, there's a couple things. First of all, in the version before, the version I made live right here, you used to be able to pick up these bombs. Oh no, you still can. You're not supposed to be able to do that because it'll crash the game. As you can see. Let's just load the game up again. So maybe this isn't the most recent version, but it's like the version before the most recent version. All I did was make a couple bug fixes. So a few of the bugs you're seeing are a result of probably not being on the most recent version. Don't pick up the bombs, but you used to be able to pick up the bombs and add them to your inventory. I explicitly added that as part of the game. That wasn't a bug, that was intended. But yeah, you used to be able to pick them up and just keep them as a little way to deal with it. Now, I will say something fun about this boss is when he hits you, not only does he just do an insane amount of damage, you stagger. You don't just get hit once. You bounce like here. I'll show you. You bounce a few times when he hits you. Stay with the bomb set. So bombs. There's actually funny story about this game. Not funny story. Just an interesting mechanic. Is there are multiple types of iframes in this game. You have your dodge iframes, which can dodge through, you know, anything, pretty much. Yeah, no, it can dodge through anything. Well, I got hit before. I got it, as you saw. Let's see. Hard to time, not really worth the risk. But you can dodge through things like explosions, the boss's attacks. Try to see if maybe I could pull it off, but I couldn't. But you can dodge through bombs with it. But how bombs work with iframes on you have your normal dodge iframes, and then you have your getting hit iframes, which function differently. So I had to make a few adjustments. The boss attacks all hit through iframes granted from getting hit by an enemy. It'll combo in it, because what you used to be able to do is, most people wouldn't do it, but you could just like take hits from smaller enemies and completely ignore the boss and just start swinging him, because the chances of him hitting you versus the chances of the very aggressive goblin hitting you, quite low in comparison. I actually think I did a pretty good job on this this sprite here for the boss. The animations could be a little bit less stiff, but yeah, it was a lot of work. It took me like a whole day to make all these animations. doesn't sound like a lot until you consider that this game wasn't meant to have like crazy amounts of nothing was supposed to look amazing. Enemies were supposed to be decently quick to add, because the focus of this was not to become a better artist, but to become better at coding. So I'm gonna die on purpose here, so I can. Well, actually, I don't even need to. Well, I did. So he took a long time, and these animations took a long time, even though some of them were a little stiff, like the halberd will be randomly shorter in some animations, stuff like that. This was an enemy, not an enemy, this was a character that a bunch of adventurers were fighting at the beginning of the movie that they made. But this boss, he takes, that's pretty respectable damage, all things considered. If you do the quest, you're good on damage. But, speed potions give you a flat increase to the damage that you do. Or not damage, to the speed that you move. And it lasts, if you look in the top left, 15 seconds. And you can always renew them once you get to 15 seconds. And it doesn't stack, it just increases it. You can have, once you have 15 seconds remaining, it's super easy to avoid enemies when you have this. Like, it's a very good option. 30 seconds is a long time to fight. But what the actually crazy thing in this game is our attack. Oh, also let's just show you how much damage this thing does a lot of damage. Let's see if I can pick me in. Oh well, I couldn't quite get the optimal one. Yeah, it does good damage, right? But what the actual crazy thing are the attack potions. If you drink it, it gives you a 10. Gives you 10 extra damage. It's pretty substantial, right? Your attacks hit pretty hard. The buff is gone. Now let's drink the buff. Which, by the way, I explicitly designed I needed to reset because I need to show you the difference in damage. I explicitly designed the potions to not be an action. Like, you just auto-consume them. Like, there's no animation for it. I didn't want them to be something that takes an animation. Like healing in Souls games and stuff. Like, not every game has to be like a Souls game, right? Okay, so my attack did roughly 160 on a good hit, right? With the attack potion, you get that 10% increase, and it's, or in this case, 50% increase. Now here's the fun thing. Attack potions, every time you drink them, if you look, it says 40 now instead of 30. Every time you drink it, you get a buff to how much damage you do. And it doesn't go away once that, specific 15 seconds is over. It only goes away once the entire buff is worn off. Like, once that hits 0. Not after 50 seconds has elapsed. And this is by design. There was a bug, and then I was like, wait a second, I can use this. So I explicitly designed this to do this. You can just do this and chomp his HP like that. And here's the thing, say you have a ton of money. I think this is fun. And also, the buff does stay between. So you could technically cheese this to be able to do that. Ignore the audio bug. Just buy a bunch more, right? And since it does stay between, there's actually an exploit you can do where you can just load checkpoint. Oh, look, I got my money back. I can just wait for it, But you can do this to technically just one-shot the boss if you wanted to, which is kind of fun. And, like, this is intentionally in there just as a, this is intentionally in here as a way, buff stacking is what I call it. You stack your buff intentionally in order to be able to do more damage. It's like a snowball effect. As you fight the boss, as you keep remembering to renew your thing, you do more damage. Now you look, I'm just doing a quarter of this guy's health. I killed him too fast. He couldn't even recognize that everyone was dead. So it's really funny. You just keep doing that, Just take another drink, You get that buff stack. It's up to 110 now. That's crazy. Let's go. Let's see how fast I can just melt the boss without Let's just go up, activate it. Just take another drink. Okay, yeah, swing. Now watch this. The special attack did a third of his HP. It's so funny. I love doing this. It's very fun. Take another drink. Just... Oh, he actually survived. That was surprising. Yeah, you know, you just keep doing it. It's a really funny tech. Obviously, if I were to patch the game, I would remove the ability for the buff to last on death. I would just remove all buffs on death and on loading a checkpoint. But this lets me show off the buff stacking in progress. Usually, how it'll go, and I'll show you a real example of how to use it. Oh, is the boss still dead? Did I accidentally save? Or did I bug it? No, there we go, there we go. That's so funny. Oh my god, that's so funny, dude. Oh, I love buff stacking. It's such a funny way to deal with the boss. Just shot him casually with the special attack, which, you know, special attack, if you do it stationary, is an insane amount of damage. I'm actually surprised one of them survived there. You know, it's funny. It's funny. I'm gonna checkpoint again one more time just to show you like what buff stacking like looks at normally. 180 is an insanely high amount, and you know, you can only, it's programmed where you can only do it once you have 15 seconds remaining. Is how the buff works, right? So what you're actually supposed to do is, you know, come in here and be like, all right, kind of fight the boss, boom, boom, kill these guys. Now you drink your potion again, you know. Your damage output's looking a lot meatier now. By the way, those bombs, they do one-shot. And this is a situation where you pop your speed potion and you just brick off, you know. Once you notice you're, you know, might need some HP if you get hit or something, drink one of these, you're fast, and you know, you're getting more damage as you're going along, as you're remembering to renew it. Oh shoot. Now this is a situation that could be very bad for me, and if I miss this buff stack, that's also really bad for me. You know, so it's like these rocks add a little bit of challenge to approaching the boss fight. But, you know, as you survive long enough to drink more potions, as you survive long enough to buff stack a little bit more, that's when you start doing your big damage, and you can just destroy the boss rather quickly. You can do it the long way, and even, like, unupgraded. Like, I've done runs where I just friggin' run through without getting any upgrades, kill the boss. It's definitely possible. It's just a lot more work if you don't use these buffs as they're intended to be used. I'm not sure how to explain buff stacking. Like, no, I am. But the thing is, do I want that to be something... And this is something that you should consider as a game developer. You can have these intricate mechanics to your game. You don't have to always explicitly explain how they work. You can let the player figure stuff out. And, you know, and one of the fun things about playing these types of games is when there's random little, what's what I'm looking for? There are random little secrets, you know, random little nuances to the game that people can just share with each other and be like, yo, actually, this is kind of cool. I'll just, you know, let people discover stuff, share it amongst each other. Music for this area is very different from the rest of the game, and I'm, once again, very impressed at how good of a job my friend did on this. I love him to death, and he just did such a great job with the OST in this game. This song's genuinely a banger. This is just genuinely a good song. Every time when he sent it to me a little quieter than I would have liked, which is a shame. But overall, it's fine. He did a great job. I'm very, very happy with it. Man, this is good. But yeah, I decided to add like a little desert area because this is part of the movie that you go through. He's walking through like all these stones and stuff. He encounters some people and stuff. I thought I'd, you know, play on that. There's a bunch of tar pits, and we'll get to the tar pits in a bit. But when I added this, it almost felt like DLC compared to the rest of the game. Like the game actually starts here, like the difficulty does, and then you have this, you know, what the Why am I sinking it here? And then you die. And you go boom when you die. Adding sound effects in this game was quite a challenge sometimes. Finding good stuff that was free to use, because this is just a side project. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on it. I had to change the chest animations to stay the same size so that it didn't push you back when it opened as well. I'm actually quite proud of how this works. But this chest is here to teach people how this new mechanic works. So right off the bat, I give you a save point. And then I come over here, and a lot of people open it and be like, oh wait, what the? And then they die, right? It happens, it's happened like 3 out of 5 times. The other 2, they'd like notice they're sinking and be like, oh, I don't trust this. Oh no, hell no. And then like, okay, yeah, open it this way. And they like get scared and get out, right? And then they're kind of looking around, they're like, okay, this is weird. And there's a hidden mechanic in this area, or hidden mechanic in the game where different regions will have different like difficulty levels, so to speak. And what it does is it dynamically scales the HP and damage of the enemies. However, it's never going to scale to the same point where it's like, you know, everything is like as hard as it was when you first started. Like it's still going to be easier, but if you didn't level up, you're going to have a harder time. That's just doing less damage than far away, right? As I explained before. I added a new type of goblin enemy. They shoot little bows at you. I think they're actually technically orcs in the show. I keep calling them goblins, but you know, we got little guys with bows. We got the tar. We got the banger music, and you're like, okay, oh shoot, what is this? And they shoot at you. I know this area has such a different vibe from the rest of the game, and I really do like that about it. And the thing about these guys, there's actually a bug with that, but you can not only hit that, but you can reflect it. But for some reason, the arrow hits the tar and detects it as an enemy. Like tar will block the arrows, but if you could actually hit it to reflect it back at the orc for triple damage or something like that. Okay, well, unlucky, I guess. Alright, let's just grab that. Let's see if I can make it hit him. Oh, these count as being things too whenever you hit it. Oh no, there we go. Yeah, see, I'll hit it for like 30 damage. These guys don't do a ton of damage. You can just hit him back. I think that's a very fun way of doing it. And you know, since enemies can walk through rocks, you can just do that, bait them out. Something I'll show off in a minute. Another opportunity to use bombs, by the way. Oh, I forgot to show it off, but against bosses, the bombs will stagger them for 2 seconds. They literally sit there and be stunned for like 2 to 3 seconds or something, as a way to, like, you know, get a little bit of extra damage off or whatever you want. The bombs can be used. They're hard to use, but they can be used. And the bombs you drop, you can't pick back up. When you pick them up, you throw them. They are distinct from the other bombs that bosses and stuff drop. And I'm gonna show you with this guy. These guys have unique AI compared to other enemies in the game. If you are too close to them, they'll actually back up a little bit and run away from you. I think it's within this range. Why is he getting closer? Well, I mean, the one time. What they'll do is they move a little bit and then shoot. This guy is just not cooperating. It's probably because he's... I don't know why this guy isn't cooperating. Oh well. It's fine. They have a small chance to drop bombs, by the way. It's like a 1 in 10, 1 in 5 or something. Yeah, I think it's a 1 in 5. They don't respawn either, though, so you can't just farm it, but you get an opportunity to, you know, get a little bit of goodies. That'll help you unlock these shortcuts without actually having to go back and buy more bombs. And now you know, you've probably been looking at these little bubble guys. You remember these guys if you've played this game. They're little skeletons, and if they grab you, you die. It's awesome. It's very cool. I'm quite proud of this little enemy. I think they've got cool little sound effects. Oh, by the way, to be noted, when you are in tar, you cannot attack. You cannot special attack. I think you can still use your items. You cannot use your items. You cannot use any item. The only thing you can do is dodge for a little bit extra speed, a little extra distance, but it doesn't get you as far as a normal dodge. Funny story, these guys actually can die to tar too, so you can just toss enemies in. It's really fun to do. And how tar enemies work, I kind of put these little things to make you like, oh hey, wait a second. What they do is they detect in your tar at all, and within a certain range, and if they leave the tar, they instantly die. Did that intentionally. It's a fun way to like kind of remove them, metagame them a little bit. It's fun. But the big intended way of getting them out of the tar, if you really want to, is to use your tether to suck them closer. And you'll hit them and they'll die. It's just the only way to damage them. They actually can't take damage. It's actually a long story with these guys. So how these guys work, I think they have a higher rate of dropping spools. I don't recall. But how these enemies work. Oh yeah, by the way, one of the more recent updates that I did to the game added the ability for enemies to pathfind around tar. That felt pretty good to implement. It took a while, but yeah, I had to learn it. But, you know, these guys are programmed, or they're supposed to be programmed to, you know, move away from you a little bit and then shoot. They'll pause for a little bit to give you some time to get closer, but if they're stopped, they'll stop. And, yeah, so about these little tar monsters, little tar skeletons, these guys never made any sort of debut on the Viva La Dirt League channel. I kind of just, you know, thought, what would be a cool thing to stick with some tar pits? Little skeletons, man. So I put little skeleton dudes in here. I love the animation I made for them. It looks really nice. What it does is if they reach you, all they do is put you in your they put you in a it's not actually a unique animation. It's the bump animation. It's a bump animation without the little stuff above your head. You look closely. It's the same animation. Oh, it still has that. It's like your surprise animation, right? I don't remember if you have it when you get hit by an enemy. I think it is probably the same animation. Let's find out together, shall we? It is. It's the same animation as when you get hit or when you bump into a wall. It just straight up kills it because the boxing glove is so strong. It's so powerful. I didn't feel bad about putting something as strong as this in the game because, you know, and I chose a bunch of different bones, like a little rib cage, little whatever. Even though the only thing that comes out of the hands are like some skeleton hands, and there are more hands than a normal person has. I don't know if you noticed. So it's just like a bunch of random skeletons, not even like one skeleton. But how these guys used to work on release, they only had like 50 HP or something like that, right? So what people would do is they would do this and then kill them. Do this. And then kill them, right? Which was fine, I guess, but you know, it's just, it wastes a lot of the player's time. They don't want to do it. It's annoying. Oh, that's a sneak peek for later. It's annoying to just, you know, go over here. It's like, oh, geez, there's a bunch of them. Crap, I don't want to do this. Geez. It's just not particularly fun to do it in that fashion. So what I did was to discourage the player from killing them, but I did want the ability to kill them so you could remove them in particularly bad situations. So I gave them 500 HP. It takes a lot more hits to kill them now. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm just not going to even bother. You know what that did? Absolutely nothing. Everyone still took all the time to kill them. And like, man, why are they so tanky? As I sit there, just hit them over and over and over. So the players were, for the most part, were not getting the proper idea to, you know, they weren't getting the proper idea to not attack them. They would just attack them every time and not really care about the consequences. So like, okay, well, it's fine. I guess I just gotta sit here even longer now. So yeah, they just wouldn't do it. So I removed the ability to kill them altogether because I really did not. The players were insistent on doing the unfun, sitting here grind, kill them. And what happened is because this area is like quite tough comparative to the rest of the game. They go die to something. Enemies do a bit more damage here. You know, stuff like that. They'd die and then be like, oh, I gotta fight all the skeletons again? Oh, man. And then it would be a sour experience for them. So I chose to remove the ability to kill them altogether, and I made them a little bit more scary, you know? It is possible to make it across this if I remember correctly. No, it's not. Right. So I'll explain that in a second too. Um, yeah, so it's, you know, I did this to, you know, there's still ways to kill them that require a little bit of finessing, but it's inconsistent, and people finally got the idea just not to try to kill them all the time. And since the only way to reliably kill them is to either try to finesse them into killing themselves, or to use the tether. And the tether's inconsistent. The tether's consistent, but what it is limited in uses. So this is one of the situations where making it a finite use thing was a really good idea. By the way, most people did not read the thing to tell them you can grab items, and so they'd be like, "Man, how do I get that item?" I'm like, "Well, you should have read." But you know, some people would read it and be like, "Oh, I can get this big item if I just suck it over. Ha! I cheesed the system." No, you didn't. I put that there on purpose, with the intention of people doing that. So you know, you can grab these items. Grab the item. What the frick? Alright, well, it wasn't meant to be, I guess. Yeah, you can just grab the items. There we go. Greedy. What can I say? So, yeah, and that's how these guys evolved into what they are now. I wanted to make it scary to be in tar. If you get hit into tar, there's a chance you instantly die. It's just a scary little thing. It changes not much, but it's, you know, it's there. And, you know, then you have this guy here. You're like, oh my god, I just killed this guy. Do I have to fight this guy again? And you look, and he has still a lot of HP, but he's a lot more doable. He only has 2 attacks. He only has the swing and the little, he doesn't drop the bomb on the floor. He only has the ranged bomb attack, and he's a lot more susceptible to getting knocked back. You can drown him in tar or whatever. He does not respawn, so once they kill him, it's over, and then you get a bunch of reward for it. So I put that in there as like little shock value, like, oh god, and then they fight it, and it's like, oh, this guy's actually like really easy. That's one of the first instances I've used where I put a arrow in there. I think that can actually hit the goblin over there, if I remember correctly. You know, and a lot of these guys don't serve any purpose except to scare the player and make them feel a little anxious, like, oh geez, I need to be careful here. It's really easy to avoid. But I've seen people get hit into it, and that's always funny. But this whole area is like a long path, short path situation. If you don't have the shortcut requirements, you gotta take the long path. There's more enemies along the way. And, you know, I kind of like that vibe, is, you know, if you're being smart with your bomb usage, you can just skip this part. Be fine. Or you could just, you know, if you want the extra money, you can run over here. So whenever I design a room, I think about like the pathing I want the player to take through it, and whether there are like different aspects that could make them want to go more places. Because the goal is to make them want to go to more places. This one's actually really mean. If I remember correctly, there's nothing in this chest. Yeah, it's just an arrow. That one's so mean. It's funny. You have to like you reward the player for picking up chests initially and stuff, but you know you can pull little pranks on them, and they're like, oh my god, what a turd developer. Actually, this one's really brutal. It actually puts down some skeletons underneath the chest only once you open it. So until you open it, that's not there, and then you put it down, and you're like, oh geez, I got grabbed and die. But I put it near the beginning, you know, and I've given the players, like, in case they were a little frivolous with their bombs, I give them ways to get more bombs. So overall, you gotta consider like the heat map, so to speak, of your room, and you have to try to think of ways to make people want to go multiple places. You can put some enemies in some places to force them to go over there. Oh, my bad. You can make shortcuts and stuff that require, you know, careful resource management, and that's what I opted for in this part. And how this room looks, it looks like there's like a bunch of ways to go, but there's actually only one. Like, once again, this is a recurring theme for this game. This game is pretty linear so far. I imagine if I were to make more, I would allow branches starting from this area, because you need to create an area that's like, when you're first making a game, giving someone a ton of choices where to go is fun. but sometimes it can be a little bit daunting if you give them truly multiple ways to go. For example, this area right here, it looks like you can cross it, but you actually can't. There's nothing you can do to cross that. Not yet, anyways. It's actually, I hid a secret up here. It's for a streamer that I like. I got him to play the game, and I hid this up here. He did not find it on his playthrough, and I had to tell him where it was. Very sad, but it gives you a marginal increase to your damage and HP. That's it though, just like 20 more HP, 2 more damage. Here's something of note. So eventually players are gonna have to backtrack at some point, right? So in order to make it seem like less of an empty world, some enemies will still respawn. Usually in the first area, it's just rats. This area, it's, you know, a couple goblins, one of the bow goblins over, one of the bow orcs over here, you know. A few of the enemies should respawn because you don't want the world to feel completely empty while your player is going through it again on their way back. And, you know, you don't need to constantly be giving them money. You don't need to be constantly giving them a huge challenge, but making the world not feel empty just by, you know, small things they can mindlessly hit as they go through. Don't make it, like, too annoying. I know, like, I did on the little road path, the forest path, I did put a couple of annoying rat spawns, which, if I were to come back to this, I might revise, because it just makes traveling back and forth annoying as opposed to, just fine. Like, oh, okay, well, this is just annoying. This isn't even, like, the world doesn't feel empty anymore. Yeah, so with this room, my idea for how this room should function was that there is a top path and a bottom path, similar to the other one, where it's like a fast route and a short route. However, the top route, they both lead to the same place. And there are benefits to going to both. The bottom one is just faster if you've been, you know, prudent, saving your bombs. And, you know, that little checkpoint back there was gatekept by a bomb. So I want to instill in the character that, hey, bombs are really good and useful, but, you know, maybe make sure you have 1 or 2 on hand because they might come in handy. So what I did here was I made the short path, which requires like 3 or 4 bombs actually. Like, it requires a surprising amount of bombs to get through. And then I made on the upper path 2 different paths. One of them goes to where you need to go, and another one goes to an optional chest that you can just pick up. And like, oh, okay, that's a ton of money. That chest exists for several reasons. First of all, you know, not everybody's just going to die as infrequently as the main dev of the game. Oh, geez, I might cuck myself here. Yeah, I did. Huh, never had that happen. But anyways, I just saved, so it doesn't matter. So you can just, you know, I want to, like, teach the player here, hey, save your stuff, because there will be positions where you might, like, you know, these different tools you have for traversal could be useful, and they're finite, so, you know, don't use all of your stuff at once. But I also want to encourage people to use them when they can. Actually, this chest is one of my favorites. It just drops a bomb right there. Most people get scared, run directly into a skeleton, or they get blown up by the bomb for reacting late. It's really funny. It's different because bombs drop by chests, which might happen some more if I make more in the game. They have a shorter timer than normal bombs. Normal bombs are 3 seconds. It's like 1.5 seconds of that one. It's like half the time. But no, it specifically exists to, you know, just give the player a little jump scare, give them a laugh, make them groan, be like, oh my god, you know, put them on edge a little bit. Like, you know, like, one of the things you have to do as a game dev is surprise. You have to put stuff in your game that'll catch your players off guard. And if you don't, then they'll just get bored. So you need to catch them off guard different times, and one of the ways to just do that was adding little chests into there. And it's also funny. I named this guy the Niche Merchant. I think that is funny because the only thing he does is sell you the upgrade that allows you to walk in, to sink in tar slower. And to showcase it, I put this right here in a very alluring thing here. So you might just walk straight into this, but now that you sink slower in tar, you can still die. But you're less likely to die because the skeletons can't insta-kill you anymore. So that you immediately get a payoff by doing that. You know, you can just And now you're like, oh my god, I don't want to walk all the way back. There's like, you know, skeletons and stuff. And you see this room, and look there. You are back over here, next to another save point, by the way. And coincidentally, there is a short path very close by. Maybe I'll buy 3 more. Actually, yeah, just buy a bunch more. This is me metagaming because I know exactly what's coming next. But yeah, so you get right here next to the bomb merchant, and wow, what are the chances? There's a difficult to achieve quantity of bombs or area where it takes several bombs to get through. Isn't that crazy? What are the chances? So yeah, like putting stuff in like convenient locations, putting this little secret right happens when you're right next to the bomb. It feels good. It's like, oh yeah. Oh, this guy's right here. It makes it convenient to the player. It makes them want to find ways to engage with your mechanics by putting some useful things nearby or tying back towards something. And then, you know, if you were to have like a situation where you want a specific gimmick to be a shortcut, putting that right next to something that might make that shortcut more convenient to do will go a long way into making the player feel like they're achieving something, make it feel like exploring is worth it, you know, stuff like that. So you get this ability. How do you live? And now you can get across this tar pit here. And another thing. Good thing I just bought some though. You can go south, and it's another situation where it's like, you know, rewarding you for buying bombs, rewarding you for using your bombs wisely. You know, put a couple things in here. That spider is just cruel and unusual punishment. Get grabbed by these guys, you'll live. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And also, by the way, that chest up there with a ton of money has like 50 gold or something in there. If a player has not been very smart with their money, or they have like I'm talking about in that previous room with the bomber, not the bomb, the guy who sells you the upgrade for your tar. If you've not been very smart with your money and you haven't been killing anything, that's like the only real situation you're running out of money there. It was an expensive upgrade, but it kind of forces you to at least fight a few enemies, at least do a little bit of exploring. Do I have any? Don't think it's possible for me to grab that from here. Yeah, it's not. Dang it, why did I put that there? Yeah, so just giving, yeah, I forget where my train of thought was going there. But, you know, there's another situation where it's like, trap chest. Uh-oh! Very loud. I should turn that down a little bit. But give the player, I gave them a huge treasure trophy. And here's the thing. If I just put, this is kind of a good distance away from a save point, right? So I thought, okay, I'll put a trap here that would get people. However, there are 3 things. There's multiple aspects to how I designed this encounter. I did 3 chests to make them immediately suspicious. I've already tricked them a few times with these chests. They think a lot of people are like, okay, there's 3 chests here. One of these are bound to be booby trapped. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open all 3 and run away. And here's the thing: if you open all 3 and run back, it blows up and kills you because it's the middle one, and it's a huge radius. So they have to like recognize there's like a huge radius of bombs and move out of the way. So it rewards people who are paying attention to people who aren't, kind of just get cucked, which is a little funny. This is a direct reference to the actual game, to the actual movie. Guy's like, hey, you want to help me? And he's like, nice day for fishing, ain't it? And he just moves on and he freaking beats it. And then look, here's another save point. That second region is 3 rooms with only a save point at the beginning, because it ties back into later areas to have save points. It's always satisfying as a player to be able to connect the region you're at back to other regions that you've been to and get a save point from there. Like just giving someone a new save point, like it feels deserved itself, but if you get them like a tie back to an old one, that feels fantastic. You love to see that kind of stuff. There is a little thing here. If you don't open this door first and go through it, then there will be a thing saying, hey, you want to maybe try the other door? It doesn't say that exactly, but it's basically that. By the way, in case you're curious, the speed potion does not work in the tar. It sets you to a specific speed. Alright, now this is a contentious boss. By the way, he did an excellent job on this boss. on the music for this boss. The music starts off kind of chill like this. It's the same thing before, but it's like 3 or 4 songs as opposed to, or I think it's 3 songs as opposed to 2. There's the hasn't started yet, this fight, and then it ramps up as you continue it, and then it ramps up even more after that. So what I did here, this boss, a surprising amount of people do not notice the purple glowing orb right here, and they'll complain, be like, how was I supposed to know? But the thing is, I put a skull right in front of them when they enter. I force them to kill the skull before they can start, and this works for most people, but there's a few people it doesn't work for. And there's only, you have to, after a certain point, you have to accept there's only so much you can do to teach a player something if they're not willing to try to figure it out, right? So when it comes to this boss, you break that first one, the boss fight starts, and you notice the difference. Funny story. When you used to pause on this boss, if those little sights were on the map, they would not pause properly. They keep spinning and then just go off into the distance, but they wouldn't reset their state, so they just keep going forever. It was pretty funny. This little theme, these guys have had a ton of adjustments to them. They used to have a shorter amount of distance they'd go, but I actually, to make it more accessible, I increased the distance so that it's more likely that if you dodge it, it overshoots you, and you have more time to react to the next one. I toned down their damage a ton. I added a sound effect to hitting the shielded one, so they're like, okay, this is not the normal tick effect. So just trying to like implement as many things into your game as possible to really make mechanics obvious is nice. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do to make sure that, people pay attention. Dude, what's I gonna do here? I have more bombs? Yeah. So how this boss works is, it's actually pretty interesting as far as like, Bed of Chaos-esque bosses go. It's not actually Bed of Chaos, but people compared it to that because, kill 2 things. So every time you kill one, it spawns another attack, right? It gains a new attack. It is only 2 attacks, but so it'll spawn another scythe or it'll spawn another hands or whatever. And these hands actually used to be very bugged, and then cause performance issues sometimes, where because of how I had it set up, it'd like create a new one, but it was so inconsistent, and it would like start like get desynced and go all over the screen. So I changed it to where it actually, oops, I didn't mean to drop that. What it actually does now is it does the whole animation going in and out, moves instantly, and then does it again. And it has a very wide turn radius. So if you dodge it, you're likely not going to get hit. But they used to have a much tighter turn radius, so you'd have to dodge it several times or go straight through it. And people weren't a big fan of that. So I made some adjustments to it to make it feel a little bit more fun to fight. Most people just opt to just like get over here. They're taking damage from things, start swinging, whatever. Since potions don't really help here besides the attack potion. It's actually funny. I actually moved 2 of the islands to be visible from like this. Oh shoot, I might actually die here. Yeah, I got stun locked to death. It's still possible to die. It just takes a bit longer. I need to be smarter about it. But yeah, the hands had different reworks to make them like more able to deal with. They used to just be either too aggressive or they desync and stuff. The sights used to do too much damage, which I did fix that. And I give it more of a, whatever. So people will be like, oh geez, which one do I go to? It's not the same every time. It is random which one it selects. So at first people kind of just like struggle. They're like, okay, well, frick, where's the next one? Why can't I find it? And then, once they get to the second one, they're like, oh, I see. It just gets rid of one of the shields. Its HP goes down, gets a new attack. And by the end, it can get a little stressful if you're not playing perfectly or if you, didn't bring bombs or something. And unsurprisingly, when they get to the end, they just power through and just hit it till it dies. And you get a nice little hear of the music. Everything is so loud, it's hard to hear the music in this boss fight. I should turn down the sounds. But the music, once it ramps up all the way, it gets to something like this, which is quite pleasant to listen to, actually. But yeah, this boss fight had a few adjustments to it. I actually had a great deal of adjustments. I moved some of the islands, added more islands in between islands. Actually, I adjusted some of the stuff to make sure it was possible to do this boss if you were somehow able to get here without getting the tar. Without getting the tar expansion upgrade or whatever. The buoyancy upgrade in the tar. So it's actually possible to do this without even getting the tar upgrade if you were to find a way to somehow cross. Nobody's found one besides clipping out of bounds. But yeah, it's the end of the demo. Wow, he did such a good job on the song. But yeah, if you're making sure to kill things, you'll always have enough money to buy that tar. And if you don't, there's a chest right there with like another 50 to 100 gold in there. Yeah, so just trying to, you can have like things that seem like high expectations as long as you make sure to reward the people who are engaging with all the mechanics, and don't make it insurmountable for the people who are a little bit less engaged with the mechanics. So that's why I chosen to leave the money up there, but I also made it a high price point, but I also made sure to make sure they got enough money for sure and had some money to spare if they actually killed all the enemies. So that, I believe, is the end of everything. I'm pretty sure that's everything that we need to talk about here. Alright, well, thank you for watching if you got this far. If you like this game, if you think this is cool, or you want to just try it out, it is on itch.io. The Figgy Pudding is the creator code. It's free. Feel free to get it, play it if you want to. And if you guys want me to make more of this game, I can surely do that. Put in some bug fixes, add some more regions. I've been considering coming back to this game because I've made so many decisions on how to handle like small little aspects of the game that I think I could, expand on. I could add more interesting, unique gimmicks. And I kind of like the format of this game. It is a fun game to play. Has a lot of potential, but if I were to do that, I would have to basically remove Viva La Dirt League themes from it, because I've tried to talk to them about maybe being allowed to make a full game out of this and sell it, and they just never really responded to me. But that's all I really have to say about this. Sure, I could think of something else if I were to play through the game again, but yep, I guess that'll be all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.